Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your yoga classes, and I wonder when did you start doing yoga, and what's your journey? I know you have a very multi-dimensional path. You grew up in Shanghai, and then you work in media and communication. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
It's a long journey for sure. So yeah, my name is Susan. I'm originally from Shanghai, and I actually took my first yoga class in Shanghai when I was in college. I only took the class because my cheerleading coach, she was a teacher. I could skip all the classes, and she still gave me an A. And it was not really yoga. I didn't even take off shoes. But then these days, when I look back, she did plant some seeds there because we did one pose. It was for like an opening kind of the ceremony for our sports events at my college, Shanghai University. And because she was our cheerleading coach, but also the sports teacher, the PE teacher for many different classes, including yoga.
Okay.
And for our yoga class, she was doing like a choreography of, I don't know how many, maybe like hundreds of girls. And I was one of them. And we did this posture holding an umbrella, but we're doing a dancing Shiva pose. So technically it was yoga, but it not really wasn't yoga.
Yeah.
And then fast forward after college, I did not want to get a job. So I moved to Japan for my first grad school. And then I still didn't want to get a job. I moved to Indiana for a second grad school.
Okay.
And after that, I felt like, I should probably stop just, trying not to deal with real life. Then I moved to New York. And when I came to New York, I was looking for something to do physically, just because I feel like I did not like going to the gym. I hated running, and I kind of remember that yoga thing was easy. So I was one of those people going to different studios, using class spots. And back then, there was this small studio called Senshi Yoga on the Lower East Side. It was close to where I used to live.
Okay.
And Senshi Yoga, I went there a few times.
Senshi?
Stanton.
Oh, Stanton. Okay.
Yeah, Senshi Yoga. And there was something very special about that place. I just really loved it. So I got a Groupon. That was one of those things where Groupon was a thing.
Yeah.
And I went back for another full month, and right away I just felt like I had to learn what they have there. And back then, the studios over there, the studio manager, they were two sisters. They were managing both Senshi Yoga and the Bhakti Center, which is nowadays my spiritual home. So I signed up for the 200 hours teacher training because it worked with my schedule. I don't have to quit my job. And from there, everything just shifted.
And when was that?
That was 2016, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, the first time I came, the first weekend I went vegan. The first weekend I met my spiritual teacher. His Holiness Ramaswamy. And then after graduation, I started teaching. I used to manage the studio here, and it became my spiritual home.
But now you're doing this like full time.
Yes.
So was there a moment that make you realize, okay, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life, or?
Yeah, well, it's hard to pinpoint, but it just back then, as soon as I graduated from my first training, I started teaching right away, but I was also working full time. I was doing marketing for probably like over 10 years. And then, I would be bringing outfits. Like, teaching that first class in the morning, work, put on different layers, then come back, teach another class in the evening. I just really loved it. And in 2019, I thought maybe I should give this teaching yoga thing a full-time try.
Yeah.
A few months in, my own boss came to me and was like, hey, can you come back help us part-time? And I was like, okay, sure. And then lasted another couple of years until I started to notice my yoga offering part was expanding, but also at some point I noticed it was sort of like a disconnection. Even though before finding yoga, I was never able to hold a job for longer than a year, even though I was in the field of marketing for a long time. But pretty much every year, I was just thinking, okay, this is getting boring. I need a different job.
Yeah.
And the next job, I was thinking, that's a job. I'm going to change everyone's life. I'm going to serve the world. And then 3 months, it's like, okay, I need a new job. But it wasn't until I started teaching yoga part-time at that point, I was able to even do my full-time job more committed.
Okay.
But yeah. And after I made that decision, shortly, I was invited to help marketing at another yoga studio in the city for a little while. It was great, but also it was taking up too much time. So I think with all that, it's like a constant balance. At some point, I just realized I do feel most myself and also most empowered while I'm teaching yoga. So,
What do you love most about teaching yoga? Because I saw you talk about like yoga is beyond body and mind.
totally, yeah.
So what is that for you?
Well, my favorite part of teaching yoga is seeing the transformation of someone. And it's not, say, like someone who couldn't touch their toes and 3 months later they're able to. That's great, but it's more so like seeing someone become happier.
Okay.
And especially when I teach yoga, I try to bring in more philosophy. And when I teach trainings these days, from the beginning of the first day of the 8 months to the end of it, you can just see so much shift, so much evolution in someone. And I feel like that's the most inspiring thing to witness.
Yeah, it must be very rewarding to see.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but I think for lots of my friends who don't know about yoga, they usually say, especially for guys, they're like, "I'm not flexible." Like, and what's the most common misunderstanding for yoga?
Well, that's what I'm you just said it.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous. It's almost like saying, "I too need to take a shower."
Yeah,
That's why we do it. And when we are working with different postures, your body starts to open up naturally. Your energy starts to flow a little bit more freely. Your mind becomes quieter. And naturally, then we want to have that experience again. So keep practicing. And as you are in with yourself, you know the asana, the postures is just a small part of it. But it's also important because we live in this body for a temporary time. We want to take care of it. And in a way, the yoga asanas help us to take care of this body.
Yeah. So, for example, like for someone, like the young professionals in the city, they have a really busy schedule. So if they only have 10 minutes per day,
Do it.
they want to do strides before or after the class. Absolutely. Is there any tips that you can give them, like, or any asana or pranayama?
Well, for one, just do it in a way. Even if you just have 5 minutes every day, if you can do it every single day, you can change your life.
Yeah.
And for one, your practice is so much beyond just what you do on the yoga mat, right? If you really want to, even just speaking about the physical benefits, when you're at work, you can always do some gentle wrist rolls, shoulder rolls, move your joints a little bit because these are the parts of us we naturally hold on to a lot of tension. And if you can intentionally throughout the day invite a little bit of movement, you're gonna, for one, you'll feel better than just sitting very stiffly.
Yeah.
But for two, you're also gonna be able to focus your mind a little bit better. And with pranayama, any kind of, I would probably recommend more of the calming pranayama versus the more vigorating pranayama, just so that you can set yourself up. At the beginning of the day, I'm calm. I'm able to have that clarity. Towards the end of the day, I can kind of align myself as well.
Okay. What's one pranayama that's your favorite, or that you recommend someone who just started yoga to do?
Well, if someone was just starting yoga, just count your breath down. You know, close your eyes and just naturally try not to control your breath. Sometimes can be the most difficult thing. And then count your breath down from 15 to 1, 15 out, 14 in, 14 out. And for a healthy adult, for about 15 breaths, for about a minute, we take about 15 breaths. So everyone can spare 1 minute. And if you can really focus your mind on your breath just for that 1 minute, you're going to become so much calmer.
So count 15 out, 15.
Why do you like yoga? What attracts you to yoga?
What attracted me to yoga? I think at the very beginning, it was, I always trying to, find a way to move my body as well. But then I like dancing a lot as well. But I feel like it's a calling for me. Like back in 2023, I just feel like I've been looking into this for so long, but now I feel like this is the time to take action.
Amazing.
So I just went to a yoga training program, and that kind of changed my life. I feel like my life, because I took the training program in Peru actually. So I just feel like the life there is so easy and happy. Like every day we just learn the philosophy, and we eat really healthy, and then we move our body, and then we have a small community. And I just feel like, oh, maybe happiness is really simple. It's not really complicated. Yeah. So ever since then, I just really like yoga.
Amazing. Yeah. Sometimes when we're taken out of a very familiar environment, there's somewhere else, and suddenly you have more clarity. Especially when you're in a place where everything is more pure in a way. You can see the pure elements. Here, elements are so intense. It's so much in a mode of so much passion, so much rajas, and when you're able to take a step back in a mode of goodness, it's like, wow, happiness doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, but I found it really hard, like coming back to the city, to refine that happiness and balance. It's really hard. So I wonder, how do you balance like your daily life? How do you integrate that self-love ritual back in the city?
I used to have a very, very long self-care, not even self-care, it's more of a practice in the morning. It used to be 5 hours.
Yeah,
so it's shorter.
Okay,
but actually be rigid about it, because that's almost like your safety container. Do it if you can. Again, you don't have to do 5 hours. Even if you can do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. My teacher always say we should always do a meditation sandwich. First thing in the morning, you set a tone for your day. Whether it's movement, whether it's practice meditation, whether it's journaling, whatever that helps you to set a tone for the day. Then in the evening, a second layer of it, so that we contain whatever happens in between. You know that you have these things to ground you.
Meditation sandwich, I like that.
It can be meditation, it can be yoga asana, it can be pranayama, it can be journaling, it can be doing something creative that you naturally feel called to. But if you can stay consistent with that every single day, it's going to change your life.
Do you do that every day?
I do.
Wow. What's your ritual like? What's the 5 hour ritual?
The full ritual is when I wake up, we're gonna get to the woo-woo side of it.
Okay.
I first check my nostrils, depending on which nostril is more open. This is a part of practice called a Swara Yoga. It's a kind of a lost tradition, but some teachers still teach it. So based on which nostril is open, I put that foot down, I chant a mantra, basically saying gratitude to Mother Earth for supporting you for another day.
Yeah.
I do a spin.
Do a spin.
Depending on which nostrils, it's like you're doing a pilgrimage around the earth.
Okay.
Right when you get off the bed, and then the first
How long? Like
2 seconds.
okay.
Then I write down my dreams. That's one of the first things I learned from my teacher, Yogi Charu. Because when you're dreaming, you're working with a subtle body. So I write down my dream, I do a little bit of a dream analysis. If I have more time, I would meditate to go back to the dream. But these days, most days I don't have that time, so at least I catch my dreams. Then I do my Jyotish, my numerology. I do the numbers based on the day. So it's a Vedic practice. It's almost like a foundation of astrology. But basically, in Vedic culture says every single thing in this material world, they're governed by the numbers from 1 through 9. Each number is containing a certain energy. It's connected to one of the planetary systems.
Okay.
So we are always going through different cycles.
Yeah.
Cycle of 9. So every day I look which 1 through 9, which phase am I in of this year, of this month, of this day. And if you want to go a little bit wild, you can also see the planets that's influencing each hour.
Wow.
And it's fun. It's fun exercise for the mind.
How do you know that?
I learned it from my teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a practice you do. And then I do some of my journaling. I kind of plan out my day. And then I do my Ayurvedic morning practice, which is I of course brush my teeth. I do oil swishing, palm scraping. Then I give myself a Abhyanga oil massage every day.
Oh, wow. In the morning, every day.
In the morning before shower. And you know.
How do you do that? Like from the top?
I usually don't do my hair unless it's a hair washing day. But basically, you use oil and put it on your skin, and long bone, the long stroke, circular movements on the joints, and you know the direction towards the heart, and then your hand doesn't even leave the body. So it's like, because in the Ayurvedic tradition, Shina is oil. Oil means love. So by putting love on your body, literally you're grounding yourself. And if you're, I don't know if you're familiar with Ayurveda.
I learned a little bit about it.
So everyone has different doshas.
Yeah.
Depending on the doshas, you have different tendency. And I'm very Vata Pitta. That's just the way I was born. So a lot of very light, very mobile, a lot of action, but I need a lot of groundiness.
Yeah.
And this practice is first thing in the morning. Try that. Your tub is going to get extremely gross, but it's totally worth it. I've been doing it for many years.
Yeah.
And
what kind of oil would you use?
so if you just want to go simple, cooler days use heating oil like sesame oil, and warmer days using something like coconut oil.
Okay.
But traditionally speaking, Ayurveda always recommending more heating oil, but you can use cooling herbs in it. So these days I use, I kind of alternate between one is a Vata balancing oil, they have different herbs already infused, and another one is a magnesium infused oil. They're all made by Ayurveda providers.
Okay.
So that's my, you know, morning massage, shower. Then I have a small altar at home. I usually do a small puja where I offer different elements back to my deities, back to, you know, to God, so that every single day live in this world. I'm borrowing the elements earth, water, fire, ether. I'm just returning it back, and also just a moment to connect to divinity. And then I do my meditation. Depending on the days, it's a different kind of meditation. And by meditation, I mean a seated meditation.
Okay.
And then I do my asana practice.
In the morning,
In the
before you
morning.
eat.
Some days it's only 5 minutes these days, because like this morning I had to leave home at 6. I got up at 4:15. I did not have time for. Yeah, even my yoga was like a quicker one instead of a 25-minute luxurious one. But these are the practice I do. Some of them they can expand for so much longer if I have enough time. And if I don't have enough time, but I still do it, so that it gives me that structure.
That's an amazing ritual.
But it's also, it didn't happen just like that. It was slowly built onto it. It wasn't like just one day I wake up, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do a 5-hour morning routine.
Yeah.
I think it started with, at first I was just catching my dreams in the morning. That was easy because that's the first thing you wake up, you remember. And then as I was learning the numerology, I added onto it, Sankalpa added onto it, Ayurveda, I added onto it. And I didn't used to have a morning meditation and yoga practice, but then slowly it was adding onto it.
You mentioned about Sankalpa a lot. Even in your class.
Yes.
So sometimes I'm not.
Well, you're in our community group. We are going to really dive into it today.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, Sankalpa, so it's basically a desire, but it's born out of heart. And you also have the desire to intention to actually bring it into the reality. Because you know, we all have so many different desires. Some of them come true, some of them don't. Some of us come true that we're happy, some of them they come true, we're happy for a second, then we don't really care. And every single day we're driven by our desires. Even when we come to on a spiritual journey, some people say, I want to be desireless. but that alone is a desire itself. So how do we understand what are the desires that's pulling me? What are the desires that's helping me for my evolution, making me connected deeper with light, and what are some of the desires that is wasting my energy, so to speak? Then we can focus the energy, then we make friends for the mind, then over time, rather than being pulled by the modes of nature, we get to actually control how do I want to live my life.
Okay.
And I've had this Sankalpa for a few years. Today I was just speaking to a friend. I want to write a book about Sankalpa. Just I feel like for me personally, the concept of it is so simple, so straightforward. But once you understand that with a simple practice, it can really help you to stay grounded and also feel empowered to live a life that feels aligned with your nature.
Yeah, I like that. Especially for people in New York.
Absolutely.
So many different.
We are constantly being pulled.
Yeah.
You're on the street, you smell something, oh, I want to see what's going on. You hear something, you see something, and then, we're constantly being pulled by those senses. But when the senses are being pulled, we're not able to control the minds.
Yeah.
Of course, the mind is busy. Of course, the mind is not peaceful.
Is there anything that you are still working on nowadays? Or like
Everything.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so for example, if you feel disconnected sometimes, what would you do?
Well, I really want yoga meditation, of course. These are things some days I don't feel like doing it. I would try my best to do it, even if I tell myself just 5 minutes, let's do a few 3 on the scar. But for me, to have that space to really recharge is important. And for me, there are a few things. I love cold plunge and sauna. I just went this morning. I pretty much go there at least once or twice a week. For me, I hate cold, but I love cold plunge. I feel like those minutes when I'm in that ice bath, that's when I have the best meditation. When I'm forced to just be in a moment of stillness, and then everything becomes so clear. So out of that, I love now it's getting warmer. Another self-care for me is just to be with my dogs and go outside. They don't like sitting outside. I tried the other day. We had a long walk and I was like, okay, here are benches, let's sit. They want to pull me home. They're couch dogs.
Maybe they're top.
Maybe. Well, they're pretty bad just from their body structure.
Okay.
Anyway, they're cute.
So you have to.
I have 2 dogs. One bagel, another one biscuit.
Interesting. Are they also like vegan?
No, they're both rescued. I don't know Bagel's story, but I adopted him when he was 3, and Biscuit was also adopted, but she had a home, and then her human went to nursing home, and no one could take care of her and 2 other dogs. Apparently, they were left outside for 6 months before anyone else found them. The neighbors were just giving them food. So both of them, they came from the same adoption agency. They traveled all the way from Kentucky to New York City,
Wow.
and I adopted them almost a year apart from each other. But these days, they're besties.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. They fight too, they're siblings.
So one female and one.
One female, one male, but they're both the sweetest.
That's cute. How do you manage that? Like, because you wake up at 4:15, and then, like, when do you go to bed and you have to like walk your dogs?
Well, I have a secret. I have a partner who helps me.
I think that's the secret.
Yes, and I try to go to bed early by 10 p.m.
Okay.
Because, if I have to wake up at 4, I'm not gonna stay up all night. Sometimes I used to think I was a night person,
Yeah.
but then yoga really over time, slowly, I started to get up earlier and earlier.
And you still feel energized during the day?
I do,
You
yeah.
sleep like 6 to 7 hours?
I think everyone's different. For me, 6-7 hours is it's good. But if I only have 4 hours, I will be cranky.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any night rituals that you do?
Not as rigid.
Okay.
I sometimes just, in the morning I plan my day. During the night I kind of review it and do a little bit of journaling and a quick meditation. Some days when I cannot do that full meditation, I just do a yoga nidra, which I'm not supposed to because I always fall asleep. And I have also one of the kriyas that I practice is called Krishna Kriya. Basically, in your mind kind of go over the day. So in addition to physically seeing on my agenda, on my notebook, what's going on, also mentally go over it. And if there's anything that happened less than ideal, I, in the mind, kind of alter that experience so that subconsciously I'm healing my mind from the day.
So to kind of just walk through your entire day and
Yes,
see
but like backwards. From the moment I brush my teeth, I went to bed, to
the morning. Okay. Oh, wow.
sometimes I fall asleep around 7 p.m. when I go over that. No, sometimes when I'm in my mind going over the day, by the time I reach 7, I'm so tired, it's like, I'm gone.
Okay.
But,
That's a good way to fall asleep.
That's
well.
true, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of friends, especially, they have a problem falling asleep. There's so many things going on.
Also, a biggest thing is turn your phone away, put it as far away as possible. I feel like that really helped me too. So it's like you're subconsciously training your mind, okay, now it's resting time, no more devices, and literally put it in a furthest corner of your apartment.
Okay. And you mentioned about Yoga Nidra, that's a good way to, even though the intention is not for people to fall asleep.
If someone who has insomnia, that's a good way to relax. Even if you don't fall asleep, if you can actually focus your mind, stay in that state between sleep and awake, you're gonna get the benefits of. They say 1 hour of that tourist say that alpha wave is 4 hours of deep sleep. So even if you don't feel asleep, you should wake up feeling a lot more rejuvenated.
So you can actually doing Yoga Nidra during the day.
Yes, absolutely. It's recommended actually. My teacher always say that do it first thing in the morning if you can, because that's when your body is very much you already actually slept, so you're feeling refreshed, and that's when your mind can focus more.
Okay. Can you tell people like what is Yoga Nidra? Very simple.
I can spend an hour speaking about it. So Yoga Nidra is a type of meditation. Yoga is that union between the soul and the super. So Nidra is sleep. Yoga Nidra, we put a physical body into sleep. We allow the actual body, which is your mind, your intelligence, your energy, your ego of I am. The different layers of us are still awake. And through different steps, we basically release the tension in your physical body, release the tension in your energetic body, in your mind. And eventually, we hopefully hover in that state where you enter that state where we're no longer here awake in that beta wave, that conscious state. We're not in that state where you're dreaming a lot of thoughts, either daydreaming or night dreaming. That's that theta state. And we're not in that state where we're so deep that it's delta wave. You're no longer conscious, but we're in that super conscious state, alpha wave. That's a meditative state. And when you're in that state, that's when a lot of inspiration starts to come through, a lot of healing starts to come up. I love Yoga Nidra. It's one of my favorite practices.
It's kind of like relaxation meditation, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But you can have very otherworldly experiences, spiritual experiences as well.
Yeah, if people want to try out Yoga Nidra, I know you have a podcast or you have a video.
I have a few videos. Also, I do it here in person with my friend every month. And my friend Julius, he provides sound. He's a sound practitioner. So it's just, I always say that's the best Friday night party. You just come here, lay down your back, try not to fall asleep for 2 weeks. But every time you come out feeling different. Sometimes you feel more energized, sometimes you feel peaceful, sometimes it can also bring up a lot of intense emotions. But either way, it's a beautiful way of healing your subconscious mind.
Awesome. So it's every Friday at Baki Center?
No, it's every month. Yes.
Yeah,
come with your.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to try. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any other offerings or events or like training or class that you're offering?
Yeah, so I teach weekly at Bhakti Center, at Studio Yoga, at Aloe in Williamsburg, and I teach trainings here at Bhakti Center. I have an upcoming training of Yin Yoga in July. So I always do that in the summer because it's a cooling practice, and you really, really go deep inward. It's always the sweetest time to get to know yourself so much better, but on a much deeper level.
I love that.
And
yoga is my favorite.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.